That evening, the disciples entered the upper room prepared for Passover, unaware they were about to experience their last peaceful hours with Jesus. The table was simple, lit by soft oil lamps, and they sat around him speaking about ordinary things. Some talked about the crowds in Jerusalem, others about the journey they had taken. Jesus watched them quietly, as if holding every moment. For them it was a festive meal, but for him it was the beginning of separation. No one realized that this night would be remembered forever. Every gesture would carry meaning they would only understand later. As the meal continued, the conversations slowly faded. The disciples noticed that Jesus spoke differently, more carefully, as though each word carried weight. A quiet uneasiness settled among them. No one dared to ask directly, yet everyone sensed that something important is approaching. Outside, Jerusalem was full of celebration. But inside the room, time seemed to slow. Every glance, every pause, every word became significant. Suddenly Jesus rose from the table. He took a basin of water and a towel. The disciples watched in confusion. Without explanation, he knelt and began washing their feet. It was a task reserved for servants, not for their teacher. Peter protested, shocked by the humility of the gesture. But Jesus gently insisted. One by one he washed their feet, and silence filled the room. The lesson was not spoken loudly, yet it was unmistakable. Greatness comes through serving others. Afterward, Jesus sat down again and told them that if he, their teacher, had served them, they should do the same for one another. The disciples listened, struggling to understand. They expected strength, authority, and victory. Instead, he showed them humility. The simplicity of the act carried a message deeper than any speech. Each of them reflected silently, sensing that this moment would stay with them. Then Jesus took the bread. He broke it slowly and handed it to them, saying it was his body given for them. They accepted it, confused but attentive. Next, he lifted the cup and spoke of his blood that would be poured out. The atmosphere became solemn. The symbols were mysterious yet filled with meaning. The disciples sensed they were witnessing something profound, though they could not yet connect it to what was about to happen. The room remained quiet, and even the smallest movements seemed louder than before. Then Jesus quietly said that one of them would betray him. The words fell heavily. The disciples looked at each other in disbelief. One by one they asked, "Is it me?" Anxiety spread around the table. The calm meal turned into a moment of tension. No one could imagine such betrayal, yet the possibility now hung in the air. Faces filled with confusion and concern, and the closeness they once felt was replaced by uncertainty. After the meal, they rose and left the room together. The streets of Jerusalem were still alive with celebration, but the group walked in silence. They headed toward the Mount of Olives, following Jesus. The night air was cool and their footsteps echoed softly as they moved forward. None of them fully understood what awaited them, yet they sensed that the evening was far from over. As they walked, Jesus spoke again, telling them they would all be tested. Peter answered quickly, promising he would never abandon him even if everyone else did. Jesus looked at him and said that before the rooster crowed, he would deny him 3 times. The words unsettled them, but they kept walking, unsure of what the coming hours would bring.
They reached the Garden of Gethsemane, a quiet place where they had often gone together. Jesus asked the disciples to remain there and keep watch while he went a little farther to pray. They sat down, trying to stay alert, but the long day had drained their strength. One by one, their eyes grew heavy. Meanwhile, Jesus moved aside and fell to his knees. The weight of the moment pressed upon him, and he began to pray with deep intensity. He said his soul was overwhelmed with sorrow. Knowing what was coming, he asked, if possible, for the cup of suffering to pass from him. Yet he added that the Father's will must be done. His prayer revealed the struggle between human fear and complete obedience. In that quiet place, he faced the reality of what awaited him. While the disciples slept, he remained alone, pouring out his heart. After some time, he returned and found them sleeping. He woke them gently and urged them to stay awake and pray. He warned them that they were entering a time of testing. They tried to open their eyes and remain alert, but exhaustion overtook them again. Jesus went back to pray once more, repeating his request, yet again submitting to the will of the Father. When he returned, they were asleep again, unaware of how close the decisive moment had come. He spoke to them one last time, telling them that the hour had arrived. Before they could fully understand, lights appeared among the trees. Footsteps broke the stillness. Judas approached, leading a group of soldiers and officials. He walked directly to Jesus, greeted him, and kissed him. That was the signal they had agreed upon. In an instant, the tension turned into action. The soldiers stepped forward and seized Jesus. One of the disciples reacted quickly, drawing a sword and striking in an attempt to defend him. But Jesus stopped him, saying that what was happening must be fulfilled. He refused to resist. He even healed the injured man, showing calm in the middle of chaos. The disciples, overwhelmed by fear, began to step back. The soldiers bound Jesus and prepared to take him away. The disciples, seeing that he did not resist, panicked. One by one, they fled into the darkness. In only a few moments, the group that had gathered for the meal was scattered. Jesus remained alone, surrounded by those who had come to arrest him. The peaceful evening had turned into confusion and fear. The garden stood silent again, but everything had changed. Jesus was led away, and the path toward judgment had begun. What started as a simple meal had ended with betrayal, abandonment, and arrest. The night continued, and the events that would lead to the crucifixion were now set in motion.